Hello and welcome back to another Salty experience. We are very honored of the way you showed us love, your likes, your comments, your shares, and your views. Keep sharing big. Okay, so today I'm here as your host, and this day are my co-host. I'm Claudia.
And I'm Clara. Today we are so privileged to have this great man of God in our midst. He is the second national vice president of the Charismatic Association of Charismatic Churches, and he is in the person of Reverend Victor Osei.
Thank you very much.
The general overseer of Family Chapel, please. That's very important, my church. Okay, so we have him here.
Hello, Daddy, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Would like to know some few things about you in ministry. So, Daddy, please, how did ministry start for you? When did you know you were called into ministry?
Okay, this is a very valid question. I was just hoping you don't go back when I was a child or I was this because I've had enough of those kind of questions. So this is a very good starter. How did I get into ministry? I got into ministry first and foremost. I got born again. And then when I got born again, I have always felt this staring towards ministry. That no matter what I did, I would end up in ministry. I was not excited about it because during my days, when I looked at pastors and ministry, I had this notion that ministry was poverty oriented. And not of at that time, well, not exactly it was, but people did not understand their responsibilities towards the servant of God. So in the Orthodox churches and some churches, you see that by the time that some of these pastors went on retirement, it was the shambles in their life. They had children they had to take care of. They had wives they had to take care of. And to make matters worse, if you died before you could do anything, and that was a terrible situation. So I rather felt the bent towards making money, making some kind of a livelihood, and then helping rather men of God to find their level. But eventually, I realized that I had a call in myself, and God began to speak to me in diverse ways. I wasn't excited about it at all. And that's the honest thing. Until finally I decided that I'd be in ministry after a few happenings.
So please, how did you embrace it? Did you just wake up one day and say, okay, now I'm going into the ministry? Or somebody had to, maybe a prophet or a pastor spoke to you?
I am one who's very much against those things. I think that a prophet only has to confirm what God is speaking to you. You're not in ministry because of a prophet. You're in ministry because God spoke to you and God called you. And that's the mistake we are making. Yes, people will tell you that one day you'll be a minister of the gospel. But the point is, are you sure? Do you know it yourself? Are you going to look up to that person, or you are going to look up to God who called you? And here is the difference. That is why a lot of people end up messing up their lives. Because they said, this so-called great prophet prophesied to me, I'll be in ministry. But they rarely ever say that God spoke to me. The key principle here is God spoke to you and God did speak to me. I had an encounter with God, a number of encounters, and briefly, one of the encounters I had was I'd been fasting and praying, and I was supposed to go to what they call the University College of Winneba now, and at that time it was called the Specialist Training College. And so I was due to go there for the first year. And then after 7 days of fasting, the Lord entered my room, sat on my bed, put his hands on my shoulders and said, if I asked you not to go to school anymore, what would you say? And I said, what? This can't be God because, you've helped me through. I mean, on the list of students, over 300 students were accepted that year. I was about 10th on the list. So I was in the top 10 after the exam we took. So I said, this one here. Then, after a conversation with God, he told me clearly that I would not be happy if I went, I would not be excited. And I know, when you're dealing with God today, I know he will make it very unhappy for you, very uncomfortable. So I said to God, if it's you, come back at 12 o'clock. It was around 7. Then exactly the clock struck in our hallway, the flat I was in, 12. I'd woken up, and when it struck 12, I heard the voice say again, I told you.
Wow.
And from that day, I knew I had a calling upon my life. even though I already suspected that. But I still went. I went to school, and every weekend I was back in Kumasi preaching. I went to school every weekend until the first semester, Easter. I didn't go back anymore.
Okay.
Doesn't mean, of course, I didn't go through a lot of struggle. I did.
Okay, so let's talk about the struggle. When God called you, what did you do? Did you have struggle from family saying, no, don't go for the call? Or friends, or you personally, you felt like, what if I go and I fail? As you said, you felt like most pastors, at the end of their ministry, there's much they did for their children. So how did you go by it? Did you just enter and you were excited, everything was normal, or you went through
It's not an exciting thing to be called by God. It's never really an exciting thing. The excitement comes in fulfillment of that purpose and duty. But there's a lot of confusion, a lot of contention. My father did hear that I had left school, and he didn't understand why I was in college, and then I just opted out all of a sudden. He said he thought I was going crazy. And at a point he said, why do you want to follow these incorrigible fortune hunters? Because the kind of people he understood to be ministers were people who would take their plates to wealthy men of God in certain churches and, oh, my child's school fees, I need money for food. And he was quite a wealthy man in his day. So he was in a particular church, I don't want to mention the name. And so these pastors, we were there in the house when these reverends would come and go, and he would all say, things like that. So he called us incorrigible fortune hunters. And he didn't understand why I did that. Then there was also the issue of my personal struggles with my purpose and my vision for my own life. And I hated to be unsuccessful. And here was I didn't know what tomorrow would hold for me, but I had to hang on to God. And what helped me was the experiences, the supernatural encounters I had with Him. It made me know there was a God. But in spite of the fact that there was a God, but I was hungry. I didn't have clothes. I had one pair of white shoes, which I later was advised to paint black so that it would fit everything. And I had to put newspapers at the bottom when it got spoiled because I didn't have the money to go and patch it.
Wow.
I had to do that for some time. And the personal struggles were there. But I kept my dignity, my composure. And then I was, of course, sacked from the house because my father didn't understand why I left school, and he had preferred if I left school, I should go and work with him. And I said, no way, I'm not going to work with you. By then I had got so hooked, line and sinker to God that no matter what my father and my parents did, zero. I said, no way. And one time I remember clearly, I told my father that, look, I quoted him back what he would tell us. He would say, we all come from the same tree, but the branches are different. So I said to him, look, Daddy, we all come from the same tree, but the branches are different. We all branch towards our way. And he was so mad at my re-quoting what he said. This would do a lot of those things to me. And when I said that, he looked at me and then, in his typical way, bloody fool, get out of here. It was interesting, but it wasn't exciting at all at that time. So I had to leave the place and follow what God wanted me to follow. Then there was the issue of what people thought of you. Because here was somebody who loved to have a good time. And then he becomes, I would go to the discotheque in Accra from Wednesday to Sunday. The only time we didn't pay was Thursday, ladies' night, where the ladies at least we only had to pay for ourselves. So these were, we're saying, what?
Victor.
This is incredible. I was preaching somewhere, one of my friends came in, Nanaminka, a son of Ashanti Pharmacy, the late Ashanti Pharmacy, and I don't know, stood by the window watching me every move as I preached, looking at me. After I finished preaching, praying for people, I was coming outside, going home. He said, Victor, blah, 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 blah. And I said, hey, now what the hell? I said, and I said, what's the problem? He said, no, the change is too drastic. And, what helped me was that very early, I began to preach around. So people Everybody says, oh, this is C. It's not like my Christianity was hidden under a table where people wouldn't be sure if I was or wasn't. I would enter places and people would take their drinks and put it under the table. My friends, they would just try something about. I would get to places and if they were smoking, they would just quickly put the thing there. And that is the kind of impact I had on people. And I was very much aware of this. And so gradually, I began to see that, wow, I mean, this thing is real, it's so powerful. It can affect these crazy friends of mine, then it can affect anybody. Yeah. I remember I would sometimes talk to people, I'd be talking to them, all of a sudden they'll break down into tears. Wow. And they'll just begin to weep and they'll know, so what's happening to us? You know, people just get convicted. I mean, it happens again and again. So, these are some of the things that I had to go through before eventually I began to settle in gradually into whatever God wanted for my life.
Okay, Daddy, I cannot let you go without asking this question. What actually made the difference?
I'm happy it's a short interview.
Yes, no, I'm not going now.
What made a difference for you in ministry? Because you are doing so well. Family Chapel is all over. Reverend Victor Osei is everywhere. The name is everywhere. What made the difference?
You just mentioned one of the differences. The name might be everywhere, but I'm not everywhere.
Okay.
It's a vital key to young ministers. And you know, the Bible says the fame of Jesus spread abroad, but he wasn't everywhere. Yeah. He was at specific places doing what he had to do. And that is one of the things I learned. One of my fathers in the Lord, who comes here often, he called me one day to his office. He was seeing my face on posters and preaching here. And he told my wife, tell your husband I want to see him. And in those days, when you went to see this elderly man of God, Charlie, it's a fearful thing. Now that these days, you just walk in and Daddy, I'm coming to see you. So I went there, my hands behind my back, and I said, hey, Charlie, what have I done? And so he came around, and I sat down, and I said, he said, in his typical fashion, Reverend Martin Apoma, wonderful one, servant of God, he said, I don't know when you work, I said, what did we hear? Nyamia Juma. We are Nyamia Juma. We are in the Juma, now we are Nyamia Juma. And I went, whoa. So, I said, I didn't hear it. Say, Kokasa, you bought a piatra. I said, oh. That's how he talks. He knows I'm very well. And then he said, now, last year, I will call Jiska. It's like he had a dossier and knew what I was doing. Now, we raise funds about some of our quotas, you know. This year, we call on us, I matter. And I went in my mind, light bulbs are flashing. I said, well, he said, oh, Abrante, we are in Perima. We already discussed some more correctly, but in free classroom. This particular thing, oh my, so from the talker. Then I went like this, yeah. Then he looked at me and said, so he told me to be specific in where I went, that I should be at the right places. And I began to have a principle. If I went somewhere and I didn't see the fruit of what I was supposed to do or doing, I wouldn't go back. That's what also helped me. And then the second thing that helped me was, for 7 years, I started ministry. Almost from CCC coming down to Family Chapel for 7 years. I did not travel outside Africa. And almost every Sunday for 7 good years, I was in church. I was in church. Even if I traveled to Nigeria, where Ivory Coast, Togo, I'd make sure I'll be back in church. And so the people got into me and I got into the people. And so I have a relationship with the people in the church. And they see me not just as their pastor, but as their father. So people relate to me in church not as Reverend Dr. Victor Osei, but as Daddy. And that made a difference. So people began to have confidence in me and what we were doing. And I said to myself, I will not travel outside Ghana until I have built a place where God's people can worship. We were in a rented premise. So the day we roofed that place, and people were excited and happy about where we were. Then somebody came from Denmark and said, we have these programs for you. So I visited Denmark. I went to 7 good cities. in that period. So that's concentrating on the ministry God has given you is vital for success. And then the last and the most important thing that has helped me is, what is God saying at any time? Do it. Period. Whatever God is saying, you've got to do it. You've got to follow through. And then there are a lot of frustrating times in ministry. But He's able to do exceedingly abundantly more. Because in His time, He will make all things beautiful. We live in a generation people are very, very much in a hurry. They shouldn't.
Wow. Okay, let's take a short break and we'll be back right now.
Preview.
Welcome back to Salty TV. The other time we had a lot of wisdom talk from our father, Reverend Dr. Victor Osei. We have him here again. So this is like the part 2 of the other time zone. So we are going to go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so one thing that I've realized about you, Daddy, is the fact that you are.
Have you been spying?
Yes. You are like a father in the church and a father in your home.
Yeah, it's very important.
And so they are even comfortable calling you Papa V at church.
Yes.
So how are you able to blend the two?
There is no blending. There is no line. The gentleman here knows how I behave towards people. I mean, I am what you get, whether at home or at work. Whoever I deal with them with an open heart. And that's a very important principle in life. So you will not say, this is his life and that is his life. If this is who I am, this is who I am. So I don't treat people differently. Now, if you come into my house, whether you are a maid servant, whether you are a houseboy, house girl, a security personnel, when we're eating, the same kind of food I eat is what everybody eats. And besides that, they even eat more meat than I do. Because I don't eat too much, and they always take my food from me. But at the end of the day, that is a very vital thing in my life, to treat people on the same pedestal, put everybody on the same platform. And that way people see the genuineness of your life. I think that for me, and I've said this several times, that one day my epitaph should be, he blessed humanity or he helped humanity, period. I don't want anything wrong there, because Jerry was here of this and this, and so what? We are called to humanity, and that's what is important. So that's me.
Okay, please, I want to ask a follow-up question to what she asked. Please, did your personality of somebody being a father, that kind of relationship, inform the name of your church, or was God who spoke to you about the name for your church?
Yes, God told me.
Because your church is family chapel, looking at your personality of being a father.
Yeah, that's a good question. I come from a large home.
Okay.
So, and family is very important. With the Oseis and the Nkumsas is my mother's side, and the Oseis, we are very family oriented. And you will not see the difference between my true sisters and brothers and my step sisters and brothers. We gel as a unit. So if you came here and I said, oh, this is my brother, you will never think that he's a half brother, step brother, whatever it is. It was inculcated into us by my mom, who was with us basically at home most of the time. And my daddy did not differentiate. And we have always been used to a large family. So I keep telling them that no matter who stays with you, it doesn't matter. Treat them just as you treat a brother or sister. And for generations, that's the way we are. We are very close-knit as a family. I mean, when I go to Accra, sometimes I go to my brother or sister, I go and eat there, I can go there anytime. They come here. Recently one was here, Isaac. He came here, he came and had breakfast here, we spoke and we laughed, and he goes away. So we have that interrelationship. Our children stay with each other. When they're in Accra, my daughter stayed with one of my brothers. And my elder sister, who's going to be with the Lord, God bless her soul, was saying, why didn't she come and stay with her instead? And one of my brothers too, the kids, one was American, the kids stayed with us. And another one too, when they were in tech, they stayed with us. So there's that family thing. And my father, I remember at the time we were about 26 in a house in Accra. My mother's nieces, nephews, my father's younger brothers, younger sisters, all in secondary school with us. I mean, we lived in that house. So I understood that family unit, and I understood how to meander my way for peace, because it's not easy having that capacity. And if you're not a father figure, you cannot handle a lot of people. Okay. And I learned that basically from the scratch. And I translated that into the church, because the family unit here was a microcosm of the bigger picture that I would handle.
Daddy, what?
Microcosm. You can check the dictionary. Just a wee bit. Micro environment. Micro ecosystem. Yeah. So it was something that I carried around to the larger thing, or should I use the word ecosystem? So it wasn't too difficult for me to find my way through and group around and then see how to handle people, all different kinds of people. I have very, very strong characters as my children, very strong characters. And I have to, they have in a way helped me to be a better father and to better understand people. And unfortunately, they are who they are because I brought them up that way. So when I look at it, sometimes I sit back and say, oh man, what did I do to these people? You know, so that is the reason why that ability to relate to people is there. Because I learned it from my father and my mother, and from that strong family unit. Even now still, we have a platform where fathers, mothers, aunties, nephews, nieces, cousins, children, all on our platform. So you get to the Osei and Kumsa platform, you find across board, and then we're all there.
So you influenced Family Chapel?
So
you influenced the name?
Funny, God gave me that name. Initially it was Family Worship Center.
Okay.
But then I realized that there was a church in Accra. Somebody I knew, a friend, whose church was Family Worship Center. He later changed it also, funny. And so I changed it to Family Chapel International, because at the same time I wanted that the body of Christ is a family. Okay. And I wanted that name to have an impact. And it has had an impact upon the ministry. So, so that's why we have our main this thing as we care and we share the love of God. So very important.
Okay, so the same way you meet an elderly person, you're supposed to tap into the wisdom, ask more questions, and then don't talk much. So I want to ask you.
Yeah, I told you that. I told you that.
Okay, that's what you told me. So yeah, we want to ask you not just like religiously based questions, but questions a bit social. So if you look back in your years, not just as a minister of God, what advice would you give to young people coming up who are not pastors, like generally?
I will give you the same advice. I'll give them the same advice as I've given you people over the years. And the first thing is, never say, I cannot. Say, how can I? And it's something that I told my kids from day one. It was born out of one of them, I forget, I think it was Yamido, coming to me over some maths work, and she couldn't do it. I said, Daddy, I can't. I looked at her and I said, listen, you know you have brothers and sisters who pass through this stage. So never say, I cannot. Say, how can I? Go to them and find out how you can. And it's become an adage in this house. Daddy, I can't. I say, hey, go and find out how you can. And that is always very important in this life for success. The next thing is, don't be a quantity producer, be a quality producer. People are not excited about quantity. Those who are validity is based on quality, and quality will validate you. All these top designers, they are who they are because of the quality. Now, have you realized that they produce also quantity goods, but they have their quality end of the goods they produce? which only quality people can buy.
Yeah.
You see? So everybody can buy a Louis Vuitton fake. But is it really Louis Vuitton? After a few days, it gets messed up. But you buy a quality Louis Vuitton bag, and for years it is still hanging. It's just like the hair you put on your head, you know. So look out for quality. Don't believe in duplicates. So you yourself, you must be an original. And when you're an original and you carve your niche in being an original, people will look for you. People are not interested in duplicates. People want originality. Now, there's another thing also apart from being original and producing quality. That's provide the right service to people. You become very rich. When you provide the service people need, they will look for you. Now, these days I've seen a lot of young people doing these, what do you call them? Those who go and pick up stuff and give to people. What do you call those things? Deliveries. Yeah, but I've seen that the delivery services that they're doing, it's not top notch. Somebody can produce a delivery service that is top notch, and everybody will look for that particular person. Years ago, I used to tell people, look, there are so many people, hundreds and thousands of people in hairdressing salons. Have you ever thought you can add value to it simply by serving water or a bottle of Coke? What do? Add the cost of the Coke or water to the hair the person is coming to. They won't even know. 1 cedi, 2 cedis. Oh, they won't know. Fuck out. Once you do your hair, hey, how do you call here? More money and Coke. So you see, you add value to it. You are on a different level. So you're providing a service. Or by any tier, it's going here. Or pension, that's simple things people do. You think that you have to do something so extraordinary. Little things will bring the necessary service needed. The world is governed by the service industry. What kind of service you provide? Why do people like taking Emirates? You know why? No. Simple. I'll give you just 2-3 things. Their business class is top notch. There's added value. Even though it's a longer journey, like say going to America or to Britain, you can take British Airways 6.5 hours. You can take KLM, about similarly stopover. You go here, it will take you about 13 hours. Go here for about 8 hours. From there to London, 5 hours. You stop over, you wait. Now, when you get there, even the airport is exciting to walk through. You sit in the plane in the night. When they switch off the lights, they have little stars in the aircraft. That little light, it looks as if you're looking at the clouds up on high. Yeah. And it's much more comfortable in their economy class than most economy classes. So people don't mind taking the long route
to be comfortable.
Yeah. So it's added value. So it's one of the leading airlines in the world. Not a certain island that there were bed bugs in it and the government had to talk about it, things like that, you know. So these are some of the things. So you have to provide a service that people want. And then finally, if you want to be on the cutting edge, then you must be able to do what other people can't do. Okay. That's what will make you also very successful in life. So get into something that people cannot do. And when you get into that particular thing, people will say, whoa, this is what I need, and I'll go to this person for it. And that is why people win races. And when they win races, they hit a time that is so incredible. Like our good friend who does this, you know. Everybody knows it. See, when Osei does that, he came on the scene. He broke records. He's doing what other people could not do. And through that, he's become a millionaire. And everybody would like him to come for their meeting. Even today, even though he doesn't run anymore, at most of the top meetings, he has a free invite to these places. He does advertisements. He's making a lot of money. There was a late Muhammad Ali. His mouth, he put his money where his mouth was. He bragged about knocking people out there around 5th round. And he did it. He became an icon for boxing. And arguably, he's said to have been one of the greatest boxers ever. And you know what? He had a saying between him and one of his cornermen. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He was so poetic. He was different. He was not a normal heavyweight boxer. He was a boxer ahead of his time. One of the first people who would make millions, $10 million from a fight, even then. So you have to be able to do what people can do. They would love to do it, but they can't do it. And it will make you very successful in life. So these are some of the few things I'd like to tell people if anything at all.
Papa, please, what advice do you have for people who are about to get married or in making a choice for a partner? What advice do you have for them?
Don't be in a hurry to get married. First, don't be in a hurry to get married. Because marriage is a journey, and it's a long journey. And I can tell you this, before I get back into what advice, is that divorce should not be an option. Because I can tell you this, you marry and divorce this person. You will think that the next person, all the thrills, you're getting back to another person. But you see, the humanity will show through. Then you say, if I had stuck with this person, and then you begin to compare, but this person did it like this, this person was like this. When you get on that long journey, there comes a time. It's not simply about the lovey-dovey situation. It's more about life and living. So I would advise that you shouldn't be in a hurry. Number two, you should marry the person you are so attracted to. People are now compromising. They say things like, oh, my marry and ambassador. I mean, if you don't have butterflies now, I don't know when the butterflies will happen. You have to marry somebody you are excited about. Somebody who thrills you. Both sides. Both sides. The man must be excited about the woman. The woman must be excited about the man. Don't be in a hurry. Marry somebody you are excited about. At least it will give you leverage and it will give you a long period of time. Then also marry because it's time for you to marry. It's time for you to marry. And that within that period, it means that you are prepared. You are fortified yourself. Women get ready for marriage earlier. And if you're unfortunate, you go and look for a man. And I don't subscribe to people marrying their own age, even though it's good. But there are a lot of pros and cons. At least somebody 3 to 5 years older than you, that particular man will be also more ready for marriage than the one who's your age. So a lot of relationships on campus, I keep telling people, it's a course. And so I don't subscribe to some of these things. But marry because you are ready, you are prepared, you can cook, you can take care of the household as a woman, and as a man, you can provide for your family. It is vital. Now remember this. There are too many of us who are in Yimu.
Yeah.
This one, his nose is big. This one has a car. This one doesn't have a car. Oh, when I married, I didn't have a car. But I have access to cars and I have the ability to buy cars. Yeah, so these are some of the things that you need to do if you want to marry anybody. And then you must remember that marry somebody who you can see the future in. And marry somebody who has a vision. Okay. Because we marry into vision and a purpose. And if you marry somebody who doesn't know where he's going tomorrow, the only thing he thinks about is all the classy restaurants, all the clothing and stuff. Well, are you going to eat with those clothing? Are you going to build a house with those restaurants and things? No. So marry someone who has a purpose, he has a direction. When you talk to a man and he says he's interested, you ask him, what is your plan for 5 years? There's a gentleman in church. This is how he got his wife to marry. There are about 3 guys going after this lady on campus. So he comes to the lady, he has this book. He opens the book and says, listen, I love you, I want to marry you. But in the next 5 years, I want to be here. Between now and 3 years, I want us to be here. Within 7 years, I want to do this. And the woman was so shocked. And exactly what he has been able to fulfill. So she chose right because the man had a vision. So even if I won't pay Papa the crown, I will have vision now. We'll pay the Yeah. All right. So you look at these things, yeah.
So as I mentioned of vision, this thing dropped.
Yeah.
Talking about vision, I would want you to talk to someone out there who is almost given up, because it's always like our vision normally exceeds our competency. And so you have a vision, but it's like you cannot achieve it. So that what would you tell someone out there whose vision exceeds his or her competency?
Getting to the place of almost giving up sometimes is good. Very good. It's excellent. When I finish, you understand what I'm saying. It brings you to the place where you come down on your knees and you say, God, help me. Defeat and inability is not an option in your life. A step at a time will bring you to a destination. And remember this, if you are on the floor flat, it's a good place to be. There's only one way you can go, either upwards or forwards. So when you've completely given up and you are down there, it's a nice place to be. We've all been there before. Rise up and say, I will take a day at a time, and God will honor it.
Wow, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We are done, but is there anything you want to say to the viewers or anybody listening?
I don't look at the camera. I have nothing to say because I've said most of the things. And God bless you.
Oh, thank you very, very much for coming, and God bless you. And this has been your Relatable Christian Talk Show. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Preview.